In this video, I'm going to be talking about the things astronaut Chris Hadfield taught me. Now, if you're Chris Hadfield and you're watching this, you're probably sipping on a nice cup of joe and wondering, what the hell? Now, I'm not only going to be talking about Chris Hadfield, because that would be a little bit weird. It was like a 30-minute interview, and he'd be like, why? But anyway, I'm going to be talking about other things. I wanted to clickbait you into this video, so I wasn't going to put things my mom taught me. But we're also going to talk about things like that. I'm going to tell you some of the biggest life lessons I've ever learned. And I understand, I'm not an old person. I get it. I can't give you all of your advice and tell you how to run your life. But I think if we all shared our biggest lessons in life, we would learn a lot from each other, and we'd be able to navigate the world easier. And in order to enable that process, in order to teach people about our experiences, we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to get a little bit vulnerable. So I'm going to be talking about some of my biggest life lessons and the people I learned them from. And if you're watching this video, and I don't mention you in the video, but you've taught me a lot. Trust me, I'm still thinking of you, but I'm just probably guessing you're going to watch this video and I'll weird you out if I mention you. And that goes for like family members, and that goes for like friends and teachers, and my pet dog. If I tell you about all the lessons he taught me, he'd be like, Nader, what the hell? But anyway, I'm going to cover the basics of the biggest things I've ever learned. First one, everybody gets nervous. Now, actually, first one, everybody poops. This one was taught to me by Paul Saltzman, one of the first people, I think the main person to photograph the Beatles in India. He hung out with them for a little while. He is friends with Morgan Freeman, and we had a Skype session. And he taught me a few tips, so we're going to talk about him first. Paul Saltzman is also a film director of Prom Night in Mississippi. He came to the school, and he's a really awesome dude all around. And he talked about, riding in Morgan Freeman's car and how life was great. But you know what he said? The biggest piece of advice he ever gave me is everybody poops. You should not be afraid. You should not be afraid of anything, because even the most powerful, perceived powerful person in the world poops. And if you remember this, you won't be scared of stuff as much as you were scared of stuff before. That was a weird sentence. But anyway, it's true. Remember that everyone poops. The next thing, everybody has prejudice. He said this. Prom Night in Mississippi was about when they would create, proms, and the black kids would go to one prom and the white kids would go to another one. And then they had joint prom. And that was really awesome. I thought that was cool. His whole documentary that he filmed was about that. And they got a lot of backlash about that in Mississippi. They got some threats, I think. But he said everyone has prejudice. And if we don't talk about it, and we don't acknowledge our own prejudice meaning our own bias, our own perceived feelings and stereotypes about the world and other people, if we don't acknowledge those things, then we'll never be able to change them. So recognize your biases. Recognize the things that, may not be fair if you have perceived beliefs or values about other people and those aren't true. Well, it's not nice to have them, and you don't want those things. Acknowledge them. Acknowledge those prejudices and go ahead and change them. That's another thing he taught me. He also told me a bit about reality creation. So if you visualize something, it will happen. That's the law of attraction sort of thing. Now, do I believe in that? Yeah, because it has nothing to do with spirituality. At least for some people it does, but for me it doesn't. But what it has to do with is if you think of something every day, you're more likely to get it. Imagine that. Oh, who would have guessed? If you think about you want to eat a bowl of noodles every single day, and you pass the noodle shop, one day you're going to be like, screw it, and go and get the noodles. If you never think about the noodle shop, when you pass the noodle shop, you ain't gonna buy the noodles. It's the same thing for bigger things. If I always want to get a certain car, I work my whole life just to get that car, I'm probably gonna get the car. Yeah, it's not going to work for everything in the world because sometimes things don't work out. That's normal. But you have a higher chance of doing it if you try to create your own reality. All right, away from Paul Saltzman, we're going to talk about Chris Hadfield, right? Chris Hadfield told me that he fears the things that, and get this, the things he's not prepared for. He says, if I'm unprepared for something, I fear it. And if you want to listen to this interview, I have it on my channel. If you want the link, I will comment it. Just remind me because I'm very forgetful. He said things that he's not prepared for scare him. So I asked him a silly question. I said, Chris, I wanted to get him here and he knew that. I said, Chris, I was asked to share my interview questions with him. I shared like 5, and I asked him things I didn't put on the list on purpose. I was afraid if I said no to the list, he would be like, I don't want to do the interview. But anyway, these are honest questions that popped up, and I asked him, Chris, well, you say prepare for everything, but what if something pops up that we never prepared for? And he said, why wouldn't you prepare? Like, think about if a relative died. Think about what you would do. Think about if I got really sick. Think about all those things. And I was like, wait a minute. This is the guy that's so ultra prepared for everything. Damn it, he's an astronaut. Of course he is. So that's something Chris Hadfield taught me, and that was really excellent. Also, one lesson I learned from all these people is ambition. The craziest people who imagine doing the craziest things are the ones that actually accomplish those things. It's rarely the very logical people. The next thing I learned, like I said, I think I said this at the beginning, near to everyone poops, everyone fears. Peter Mansbridge, former chief correspondent of CBC News, told me, let me get this right, I'm going to paraphrase, it's not quote for quote, but he said, if you don't have a little bit of fear, then you've probably been doing it too long. And I took that in one of 2 ways. Either you've been doing it too long, so you learn not to get scared anymore, or you've been doing it so long that you got so senile that fear isn't even a thing in your head anymore. Now, I'm not saying that's him, because he said he still had fear, so I don't think he got to that stage. He's a cool guy. But anyway, basically, if you're fearing something, that's normal. You need to use that nervous energy and channel it into giving a more powerful speech, giving a better presentation, you know, creating a more thrilling, beautiful piece of art, cooking that dish amazingly on Master Chef or whatever you're doing. So that's one thing that he taught me. He also taught me not to be a phony, to be real. And you know, I think we all struggle with authenticity every day. I don't think anyone is truly the realest, real version of themselves, because we all have egos. We all have egos. And our egos are based on, I mean, some people are more egotistical than others, but our egos are based on our preconceived notions, the way that we've been brought up, a whole bunch of other different things. I'm not a psychologist, but anyway, what you need to understand is that you should not fear anything, and you need to be ambitious, and you need to go out there, eliminate your prejudices. This is becoming a very long video. Okay, I also learned something from my parents. My parents are very strict growing up, so, and I thank them for that, because I had to be very careful not to be bad or be an idiot because I might make somebody angry. Now, some people would say, oh no, that's very bad. Well, yeah, it's not the best thing in the world, but at the same time, I became ultra aware of every single thing that I did. I became aware of how I spoke, the intonation of my voice, and I looked at the reactions that generated. I figured out how to make certain people feel certain things, and I took this into sales. So by becoming ultra aware of the reaction and the feeling, not only what you're telling people and how they understand it and comprehend it, but how every single word and sentence coming out of your mouth makes another person feel. If you can understand how that feels and then feel it yourself, then that's super powerful, and you can generate emotions inside of other people to cause them and spark them, inspire them to do certain actions. So I hope that's understandable to you, but if you can understand the emotion, the feelings that you're generating, then you can become better at making other people do what you want, hopefully for a better cause. Now, those are just some of the inspiring things I learned from people, including Chris Hadfield, so I probably sucked you into a big wormhole of different inspirational people that I met and motivation, but I really wanted to get that out there because I did so many interviews over the years, on radio, on my YouTube channel, 2 different stations now, and I learned a lot from a lot of different people, and I think the people in my life have influenced me more than any of the other people that I've interviewed. But all I would like to say is try to seek out your mentors. The takeaway I want you to take from this video is, if there's somebody you look up to, even if it's the president or it's the prime minister, do everything you can to contact them and get them to give you a bit of their time. They usually will. Just don't put yourself down and believe you can get it. Don't say, hey, I'm Bob and you probably don't want to have an interview with me. Don't say that. Say, my name's Bob and I'm starting a new magazine. And in this magazine, I would like you, Justin Trudeau, to be my first interviewee. Talk like that, you know? Put yourself on a little bit of a pedestal because these people already are. Like the Prime Minister, come on. Like you gotta talk yourself up a little bit. But do what you can. Again, like I said, understand the emotions that you're generating in other people and try to get your heroes to give you a bit of their time. Moral of this video, hunt down your heroes. If any of my videos help you or you're just inspired or interested by the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop me a comment down below.